Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of question and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is: a company is using AWS to design a web application that will process insurance quotes. Users will request quotes from the application. Quotes must be separated by quote type, must be responded to within 24 hours, and must not get lost. The solution must maximize operational efficiency and must minimize maintenance. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A: create multiple Amazon Places data streams based on the queue type. Configure the web application to send message to the proper data stream. Configure each backend group of application servers to use the Nessus Data Client library to pull messages from its own data stream. Option B: create an AWS Lambda function and an Amazon Simple Notification Service topic for each queue type. Subscribe the Lambda function to its associated SNS topic. Configure the application to publish requests for queues to the appropriate SNS topic. Option C: create a single Amazon Simple Notification Service topic. Subscribe Amazon Simple Queue Service queues to the SNS topic. Configure SNS message filtering to publish message to the proper SQS queue based on the queue type. Configure each backend application server to use its own SQS queue. And option D: create multiple Amazon Nessus Data Firehouse delivery streams based on the queue type to deliver data streams to an Amazon OpenSearch service cluster. Configure the application to send message to the proper delivery stream. Configure each backend group of application servers to search for the message from OpenSearch service and process them accordingly. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is: a company has an application that runs on several Amazon EC2 instances. Each EC2 instance has multiple Amazon Elastic bookstore data volumes attached to it. The application's EC2 instance configuration and data need to be backed up nightly. The application also needs to be recoverable in a different AWS region. Which solution will meet these requirements in the most operationally efficient way? Option A: create an AWS Lambda function that schedules nightly snapshots of the application's EBS volumes and copies the snapshots to a different region. Option B: create a backup plan by using AWS Backup to perform nightly backups. Copy the backups to another region. Add the application's EC2 instances as resources. Option C: create a backup plan by using AWS Backup to perform nightly backups. Copy the backups to another region. Add the application's EBS volumes as resources. And option D: write an AWS Lambda function that schedules nightly snapshots of the application's EBS volumes and copies the snapshots to a different availability zone. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is: a company is building a mobile app on AWS. The company wants to expand its reach to millions of users. The company needs to build a platform so that authorized users can watch the company's content on their mobile devices. What should a solutions architect recommend to meet these requirements? Option A: publish content to a public Amazon S3 bucket. Use AWS Key Management to service keys to stream content. Option B. Set up IPsec VPN between the mobile app and the AWS environment to stream content. Option C. Use Amazon CloudFront. Provide signed URLs to stream content. And option D. Set up AWS client VPN between the mobile app and the AWS environment to stream content. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company has an on-premises MySQL database used by the global sales team with infrequent access patterns. The sales team requires the database to have a minimal downtime. A database administrator wants to migrate this database to AWS without selecting a particular instance type in anticipation of more users in the future. Which service should a solutions architect recommend? Option A. Amazon Aurora MySQL. Option B. Amazon Aurora Serverless for MySQL. Option C. Amazon Redshift Spectrum. And option D. Amazon RDS for MySQL. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company experienced a breach that affected several applications in its on-premises data center. The attacker took advantage of vulnerabilities in the custom applications that were running on the servers. The company is now migrating its applications to run on Amazon EC2 instances. The company wants to implement a solution that actively scans for vulnerabilities on the EC2 instances and sends a report that details the findings. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Deploy AWS Shield to scan the EC2 instances for vulnerabilities. Create an AWS Lambda function to log any findings to AWS Cloud Trail. Option B. Deploy Amazon Messi and AWS Lambda functions to scan the EC2 instances for vulnerabilities. Log any findings to AWS Cloud Trail. Option C. Turn on Amazon Guard Duty. Deploy the Guard Duty agents to the EC2 instances. Configure an AWS Lambda function to automate the generation and distribution of reports that detail the findings. And option D. Turn on Amazon Inspector. Deploy the Amazon Inspector agent to the EC2 instances. Configure the AWS Lambda function to automate the generation and distribution of reports that detail the findings. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a company uses an Amazon EC2 instance to run a script to poll for and process messages in an Amazon Simple Queue service queue. The company wants to reduce operational costs while maintaining its ability to process a growing number of messages that are added to the queue. What should a solutions architect recommend to meet these requirements? Option A. Increase the size of the instance to process messages faster. Option B. Use Amazon Event Bridge to turn off the EC2 instance when the instance is underutilized. Option C. Migrate the script on the EC2 instance to an AWS Lambda function with the appropriate runtime. And option D. Use AWS System Manager Run command to run the script on demand. And the correct answer is option C. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of question and answer, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company uses a legacy application to produce data in CSV format. The legacy application stores the output data in Amazon S3. The company is deploying a new commercial off-the-shelf application that can perform complex SQL queries to analyze data that is stored in Amazon Redshift and Amazon S3 only. However, the COTS application cannot process the CSV files that the legacy application produces. The company cannot update the legacy application to produce data in another format. The company needs to implement a solution so that the COTS application can use the data that the legacy application produces. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Option A. Create an AWS glue extract, transform and load job that runs on a schedule. Configure the ETL job to process the CSV files and store the processed data in Amazon Redshift. Option B. Develop a Python script that runs on Amazon EC2 instances to convert the CSV files to SQL files. Invoke the Python script on a cron schedule to store the output files in Amazon S3. Option C. Create an AWS Lambda function and an Amazon DynamoDB. Use an S3 event to invoke the Lambda function. Configure the Lambda function to perform an extract, transform the load job to process the CSV files and store the processed data in the DynamoDB table. And option D. Use the Amazon Event Bridge to launch an Amazon EMR cluster on a weekly schedule. Configure the EMR cluster to perform an extract, transform and load job to process the CSV files and store the processed data in an Amazon Redshift table. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company recently migrated its entire IT environment to the AWS cloud. The company discovers that users are provisioning oversized Amazon EC2 instances and modifying security group rules without using the appropriate change control process. A solution architect must devise a strategy to track and audit these inventory and configuration changes. Which solution should the solutions architect take to meet these requirements? Choose 2. Option A. Enable AWS CloudTrail and use it for auditing. Option B. Use data lifecycle policies for the Amazon EC2 instances. Option C. Enable AWS Trusted Advisor and reference the security dashboard. Enable AWS config and create rules for auditing and compliance purposes. And option E. Restore previous resource configurations with an AWS Cloud Formation template. And the correct answer is option A and D. Next question is, a company has hundreds of Amazon EC2 Linux-based instances in the AWS cloud. Systems administrators have used shared SSH keys to manage the instances. After a recent audit, the company's security team is mandating the removal of all shared keys. A solutions architect must design a solution that provides secure access to the EC2 instances. Which solution will meet this requirement with the least amount of administrative overhead? Option A. Use AWS Systems Manager Session Manager to connect to the EC2 instances. Option B. Use AWS Security Token Service to generate one-time SSH keys on demand. Option C. Allow shared SSH access to a set of Bastion instances. Configure all other instances to allow only SSH access from the Bastion instances. And option D. Use an Amazon Cognito custom authorizer to authenticate users. Invoke an AWS Lambda function to generate a temporary SSH key. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, a company is using a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances to ingest data from on-premises data sources. The data is in JSON format and ingestion rates can be as high as 1 MB per second. When an EC2 instance is rebooted, the data in flight is lost. The company's data science team wants to query ingested data in near real time. Which solution provides near real-time data querying that is scalable with minimal data loss? Option A. Publish data to Amazon Nielsen data streams. Use Nielsen's data analytics to query the data. Option B. Publish data to Amazon Nielsen's data firehose with Amazon Redshift as a destination. Use Amazon Redshift to query the data. Option C. Store ingested data in an EC2 instance store. Publish data to Amazon Nielsen's data firehose with Amazon S3 as the destination. Use Amazon Athena to query the data. And option D. Store ingested data in an Amazon Elastic Block Store volume. Publish data to Amazon Elastic Cache for Redis. Subscribe to the Redis channel to query the data. And the correct answer is option A. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of question and answer, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, what should a solutions architect do to ensure that all objects uploaded to an Amazon S3 bucket are encrypted? Option A. Update the bucket policy to deny if the put object does not have an S3X AMZ ACL header set. Option B. Update the bucket policy to deny if the put object does not have an S3X AMZ ACL header set to private. Option C. Update the bucket policy to deny if the put object does not have an AWS secure transport header set to true. And option D. Update the bucket policy to deny if the put object does not have any XAMZ server-side encryption header set. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a solutions architect is designing a multi-tier application for a company. The application's user upload image from a mobile device. The application generates a thumbnail of each image and returns a message to the user to confirm that the image was uploaded successfully. The thumbnail generation can take up to 60 seconds, but the company wants to provide a faster response time to its users to notify them that the original image was received. The solutions architect must design the application to asynchronously dispatch requests to the different application tiers. What should the solutions architect do to meet these requirements? Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company's facility has badge readers at every entrance throughout the building. When badges are scanned, the reader sends a message over HTTPS to indicate who attempted to access that particular entrance. A solutions architect must design a system to process these messages from the sensors. The solution must be highly available and the results must be made available for the company's security team analyze. Which system architecture should the solutions architect recommend? Option A. Launch an Amazon EC2 instance to serve as the HTTPS endpoint and to process the message. Configure the EC2 instance to save the results to an Amazon S3 bucket. Option B. Create an HTTPS endpoint in Amazon API Gateway. Configure the API Gateway endpoint to invoke an AWS Lambda function to process the message and save the results to an Amazon DynamoDB table. Option C. Use Amazon Route 53 to direct incoming sensor messages to an AWS Lambda function. Configure the Lambda function to process the message and save the results to an Amazon DynamoDB table. And option D, create a gateway VPC endpoint for Amazon S3. Configure a site-to-site VPN connection from the facility network to the VPC so that sensor data can be written directly to an S3 bucket by way of the VPC endpoint. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company wants to implement a disaster recovery plan for its primary on-premises file storage volume. The file storage volume is mounted from an Internet Small Computer Systems interface device on a local storage server. The file storage volume holds hundreds of terabytes of data. The company wants to ensure that end users retain immediate access to all file types from the on-premises systems without experiencing latency. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least amount of change to the company's existing infrastructure? Option A, provision an Amazon S3 file gateway as a virtual machine that is hosted on premises. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least amount of change to the company's existing infrastructure? Option A, provision an Amazon S3 file gateway as a virtual machine that is hosted on premises. Set the local cache to 10 TB. Modify existing applications to access the files through the NFS protocol to recover from a disaster provision on Amazon EC2 instance and mount the S3 bucket that contains the files. Option B, provision an AWS storage gateway type gateway. Use a data backup solution to back up all existing data to a virtual tape library. Configure the data backup solution to run nightly after the initial backup is complete. To recover from a disaster, provision an Amazon EC2 instance and restore the data to an Amazon Elastic Block Store volume from the volumes in the virtual tape library. Provisions and Option C, provisions and AWS storage gateway volume gateway cached volume. Set the local cache to 10 TB. Mount the volume gateway cached volume to the existing file server by using ISCSI and copy all files to the storage volume. Configure schedule snapshots of the storage volume to recover from a disaster. Restore a snapshots to an Amazon Elastic Block Store volume and attach the EBS volume to an Amazon EC2 instance. And option D, provision an AWS storage gateway volume gateway stored volume with the same amount of disk space as the existing file storage volume. Mount the volume gateway stored volume to the existing file server by using ISCSI and copy all files to the storage volume. Configure schedule snapshots of the storage volume to recover from a disaster. Restore a snapshot to an Amazon Elastic Block Store volume and attach the EBS volume to an Amazon EC2 instance. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company is hosting a web application from an Amazon S3 bucket. The application uses Amazon Cognito as an identity provider to authenticate users and return a JSON web token that provides access to the protected resources that are stored in another S3 bucket. Upon deployment of the application, users report errors and are unable to access the protected content. A solutions architect must resolve this issue by providing proper permissions so that users can access the protected content. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A, update the Amazon Cognito identity pool to assume the proper IAM role for access to the protected content. Option B, update the S3 ACL to allow the application to access the protected content. Option C, redeploy the application to Amazon S3 to prevent eventually consistent reads in the S3 bucket from affecting the ability of users to access the protected content. And option D, Update the Amazon Cognito pool to use custom attribute mappings within the identity pool and grant users and proper permissions to access the protected content. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, an image hosting company uploads its large assets to Amazon S3 standard buckets. The company uses multi-path upload in parallel by using S3 APIs and overrides if the same object is uploaded again. For the multi 30 days after upload, the objects will be accessed frequently. The objects will be used less frequently after 30 days, but the access pattern for each object will be inconsistent. The company must optimize its S3 storage costs while maintaining highly availability and resiliency of stored assets. Which combination of actions should a solutions architect recommend to meet these requirements? Choose 2. Option A. Move assets to S3 intelligent tiering after 30 days. Option B. Configure an S3 lifecycle policy to clean up incomplete multi-path uploads. Option C. Configure an S3 lifecycle policy to clean up expired object delete markers. Option D. Move assets to S3 standard infrequent access after 30 days. And option E. Move assets to S3 one zone infrequent access after 30 days. And the correct answer is option A and D. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a solution architect is designing the architecture for a software demonstration environment. The environment will run on Amazon EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer. The system will experience significant increases in traffic during working hours but is not required to operate on weekends. Which combination of actions should the solutions architect take to ensure that the system can scale to meet demand? Choose 2. Option A. Use AWS autoscaling to adjust the ALB capacity based on request rate. Option B. Use AWS autoscaling to scale the capacity of the VPC Internet Gateway. Option C. Launch the EC2 instances in multiple AWS regions to distribute the load across regions. Option D. Use a target tracking scaling policy to scale the auto-scaling group based on instance CPU utilization. And option E. Use scheduled scaling to change the auto-scaling group minimum, maximum and desired capacity to 0 for weekends. Revert to the default values at the start of the week. And the correct answer is option A and D. Next question is, a solutions architect is designing a two-tiered architecture that includes a public subnet and a database subnet. The web servers in the public subnet must be open in the internet on port 443. The Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance in the database subnet must be accessible only to the web servers on port 3306. Which combination of steps should the solutions architect take to meet these requirements? Choose 2. Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option C and D. Next question is, a company is implementing a shared storage solution for a gaming application that is hosted in the AWS cloud. The company needs the ability to use Lustre clients to access data. The solution must be fully managed. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Create an AWS data sync task that shares the data as a mountable file system. Mount the file system to the application server. Option B. Create an AWS storage gateway file gateway. Create a file share that uses the required client protocol. Connect the application server to the file share. Option C. Create an Amazon Elastic file system and configure it to support Lustre. Attach the file system to the origin server. Connect the application server to the file system. And option D. Create an Amazon FSx for Lustre file system. Attach the file system to the origin server. Connect the application server to the file system. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a company runs an application that receives data from thousands of geographically dispersed remote devices that use UDP. The application processes the data immediately and sends a message back to the device if necessary. No data is stored. The company needs a solution that minimizes latency for the data transmission from the devices. The solution also must provide rapid failover to another AWS region. Which solution will meet these requirements? Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a solution architect must migrate a Windows Internet Information Services web application to AWS. The application currently relies on a file share hosted in the user's on-premises network attached storage. The solution's architect has proposed migrating the IIS web servers to Amazon EC2 instances in multiple availability zones that are connected to the storage solution and configuring an elastic load balancer attached to the instances. Which replacement to the on-premises file share is most resilient and durable? Option A. Migrate the file share to Amazon RDS. Option B. Migrate the file share to AWS Storage Gateway. Option C. Migrate the file share to Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Option D. Migrate the file share to Amazon Elastic File System. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company is deploying a new application on Amazon EC2 instances. The application writes data to Amazon Elastic Block Store volumes. The company needs to ensure that all data that is written to the EBS volume is encrypted at rest. Which solution will meet this requirement? Option A. Create an IAM role that specifies EBS encryption. Attach the role to the EC2 instances. Option B. Create the EBS volumes as encrypted volumes. Attach the EBS volumes to the EC2 instances. Option C. Create an EC2 instance tag that has a key of encrypt and a value of true. Tag all instances that require encryption at the EBS level. And option D. Create an AWS key management service key policy that enforces EBS encryption in the account. Ensure that the key policy is active. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company has a web application with sporadic usage patterns. There is heavy usage at the beginning of each month, moderate usage at the start of each week, and unpredictable usage during the week. The application consists of a web server and a MySQL database server running inside the data center. The company would like to move the application to the AWS cloud and needs to select a cost-effective database platform that will not require database notifications. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Amazon DynamoDB. Option B. Amazon RDS for MySQL. Option C. MySQL compatible Amazon Aurora Serverless. And option D. MySQL deployed on Amazon EC2 in an auto-scaling group. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, An image hosting company stores its object in Amazon S3 bucket. The company wants to avoid accidental exposure of the objects in the S3 bucket to the public. All S3 buckets in the entire AWS account need to remain private. Which solution will meet these requirements? Which solution will meet this requirement? Option A. Use Amazon Guard Duty to monitor S3 bucket policies. Create an automatic remediation action rule that uses an AWS Lambda function to remediate any change that make the objects public. Option B. Use AWS Trusted Advisor to find publicly accessible S3 buckets. Configure email notifications in Trusted Advisor when a change is detected. Manually change the S3 bucket policy if it allows public access. Option C. Use AWS Resource Access Manager to find publicity accessible S3 buckets. Use Amazon Simple Notification Service to invoke an AWS Lambda function when a change is detected. Deploy a Lambda function that programmatically remediates the change. And option D. Use the S3 block public access feature on the account level. Use AWS organizations to create a service control policy that prevents IAM user from changing the setting. Apply the SCP to the account. And the correct answer is option D. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of question and answer, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a solutions architect must secure a VPC network that hosts Amazon EC2 instances. The EC2 instances contain highly sensitive data and run in a private subnet. According to company policy, the EC2 instances that run in the VPC can access any approved third-party software repositories on the internet for software product updates that use the third party's URL. Other internet traffic must be blocked. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Update the route table for the private subnet to route the outbound traffic to an AWS network firewall. Configure domain list rule groups. Option B. Set up an AWS WAF web ACL. Create a custom set of rules that filter traffic requests based on source and destination IP address range sets. Option C. Implement restrict inbound security group rules. Configure an outbound rule that allows traffic only to the authorized software repositories on the internet by specifying the URLs. And option D. Configure an application load balancer in front of the EC2 instances. Direct all outbound traffic to the ALB. Use a URL-based rule listener in the ALB's target group for outbound access to the internet. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company is hosting a three-tier e-commerce application in the AWS cloud. The company hosts the website on Amazon S3 and integrates the website with an API that handles sales requests. The company hosts the API on three Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer. The API consists of static and dynamic front-end content along with backend workers that process sales requests asynchronously. The company is expecting a significant and sudden increase in the number of sales requests during events for the launch of new products. What should a solutions architect recommend to ensure that all the requests are processed successfully? Option A. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution for the dynamic content. Increase the number of EC2 instances to handle the increase in traffic. Option B. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution for the static content. Place the EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group to launch new instances based on network traffic. Option C. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution for the dynamic content. Add an Amazon Elastic Cache instance in front of the ALB to reduce traffic for the API to handle. And option D. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution for the static content. Add an Amazon Simple Queue service queue to receive requests from the website for later processing by the EC2 instances. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a security audit reveals that Amazon EC2 instances are not being patched regularly. A solutions architect needs to provide a solution that will run regular security scans across a large fleet of EC2 instances. The solution should also patch the EC2 instances on a regular schedule and provide a report of each instance patch status. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Set up Amazon Messi to scan the EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities. Set up a cron job on each EC2 instance to patch the instance on a regular schedule. Option B. Turn on Amazon Guard Duty in the account. Configure Guard Duty to scan the EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities. Set up AWS Systems Manager Session Manager to patch the EC2 instances on a regular schedule. Option C. Set up Amazon Detective to scan the EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities. Set up an Amazon Event Bridge scheduled rule to patch the EC2 instances on a regular schedule. And option D. Turn on Amazon Inspector in the account. Configure Amazon Inspector to scan the EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities. Set up AWS Systems Manager Patch Manager to patch the EC2 instances on a regular schedule. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a company is planning to store data on Amazon RDS DB instances. The company must encrypt the data at rest. What should a solutions architect do to meet these requirements? Option A. Create a key in AWS Key Management Service. Enable encryption for the DB instances. Option B. Create an encryption key. Store the key in AWS Secrets Manager. Use the key to encrypt the DB instances. Option C. Generate a certificate in AWS Certificate Manager. Enable SSL/TLS on the DB instances by using the certificate. And option D. Generate a certificate in AWS Identity and Access Management. Enable SSL/TLS on the DB instances by using the certificates. And the correct answer is option A. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company needs to create an Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service cluster to host a digital media streaming application. The EKS cluster will use a managed node group that is backed by Amazon Elastic Block Store volumes for storage. The company must encrypt all data at rest by using a customer managed key that is stored in AWS Key Management Service. Which combination of actions will meet this requirement with the least operational overhead? Choose 2. Option A. Use a Kubernetes plugin that uses the customer managed key to perform data encryption. Option B. After creation of the EKS cluster, locate the EBS volumes, enable encryption by using the customer managed key. Option C. Enable EBS encryption by default in the AWS region where the EKS cluster will be created. Select the customer managed key as the default key. Option D. Create the EKS cluster. Create an IAM role that has a policy that grants permission to the customer managed key. Associate the role with the EKS cluster. And option D. Store the customer managed by key as a Kubernetes secret in the EKS cluster. Use the customer managed key to encrypt the EBS volumes. And the correct answer is option B and C. Next question is, a company wants to migrate an Oracle database to AWS. The database consists of a single table that contains millions of geographic information systems, images that are high resolution and are identified by a geographic code. When a natural disaster occurs, tens of thousands of images get updated every few minutes. Each geographic code has a single image or row that is associated with it. The company wants a solution that is highly available and scalable during such events. Which solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Option A. Store the image and geographic codes in a database table. Use Oracle running on an Amazon RDS multi-AZ-DB instance. Option B. Store the image in Amazon S3 buckets. Use Amazon DynamoDB with the geographic code as the key and the image S3 URL as the value. Option C. Store the image and geographic codes in an Amazon DynamoDB table. Configure DynamoDB accelerator during times of high load. And option D. Store the image in Amazon S3 buckets. Store geographic codes and image S3 URLs in a database table. Use Oracle running on an Amazon RDS multi-AZ-DB instance. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company has an application that collects data from IoT sensors on automobiles. The data is streamed and stored in Amazon S3 through Amazon Nessus Data Firehose. The data produces trillions of S3 objects each year. Each morning, the company uses the data from the previous 30 days to retrain a suite of machine learning models. 4 times each year, the company uses the data from the previous 12 months to perform analysis and train other ML models. The data must be available with minimal delay for up to 1 year. After 1 year, the data must be retained for archival purposes. Which storage solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Option A. Use the S3 Intelligent Tiering Storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. Option B. Use the S3 Intelligent Tiering Storage class. Configure S3 Intelligent Tiering to automobile move objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. Option C. Use the S3 Standard Frequent Access Storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. And option D. Use the S3 Standard Storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Standard Infrequent Access after 30 days and then to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. And the correct answer is option C. Moving to next question. A company is running several business applications in 3 separate VPCs with the US East 1 region. The applications must be able to communicate between VPCs. The applications also must be able to consistently send hundreds of gigabytes of data each day to a latency-sensitive application that runs in a single on-premises data center. A solutions architect needs to design a network connectivity solution that maximizes cost effectiveness. This solution meets these requirements. Option A. Configure three AWS side-to-side VPN connections from the data center to AWS. Establish connectivity by configuring one VPN connection for each VPC. Option B. Launch a third-party virtual network appliance in each VPC. Establish an IPsec VPN tunnel between the data center and each virtual appliance. Option C. Set up three AWS Direct Connect connections from the data center to a Direct Connect gateway in East 1. Establish connectivity by configuring each VPC to use one of the Direct Connect connections. And option D. Set up one AWS Direct Connect connection from the data center to AWS. Create a transit gateway and attach each VPC to the transit gateway. Establish connectivity between the direct connection and the transit gateway. And the correct answer is option D. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company wants to migrate an Oracle database to AWS. The database consists of a single table that contains millions of geographic information systems, images that are high resolution and are identified by a geographic code. When a natural disaster occurs, tens of thousands of images get updated every few minutes. Each geographic code has a single image or road that is associated with it. The company wants a solution that is highly available and scalable during such events. Which solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Option A. Store the image and geographic codes in the database table. Use Oracle running on an Amazon RDS multi-AZDB instance. Option B. Store the image in Amazon S3 buckets. Use Amazon DynamoDB with the geographic codes as the key and the image S3 URL as the value. Option C. Store the image and geographic codes in an Amazon DynamoDB table. Configure DynamoDB accelerator during times of high load. And option D. Store the image in Amazon S3 buckets. Store geographic codes and image S3 URLs in a database table. Use Oracle running on an Amazon RDS multi-AZDB instance. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company has an application that collects data from IoT sensors on automobiles. The data is streamed and stored in Amazon S3 through Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose. The data produces trillions of S3 objects each year. Each morning, the company uses the data from the previous 30 days to retrain a suite of machine learning models. 4 times each year, the company uses the data from the previous 12 months to perform analysis and train other ML models. The data must be available with minimal delay for up to 1 year. After 1 year, the data must be retained for archival purposes. Which storage solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Option A. Use the S3 Intelligent Tiering Storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. Option B. Use the S3 Intelligent Tiering Storage class. Configure S3 Intelligent Tiering to automatically move objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. Option C. Use the S3 standard infrequent access storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. And option D. Use the S3 standard storage class. Create an S3 lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 standard infrequent access after 30 days and then to S3 Glacier Deep Archive after 1 year. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company is running several business applications in 3 separate VPCs within the US East 1 region. The applications must be able to communicate between VPCs. The applications also must be able to consistently send hundreds of gigabytes of data each day to a latency-sensitive application that runs in a single on-premises data center. A solutions architect needs to design a network connectivity solution that maximizes cost effectiveness. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Configure 3 AWS site-to-site VPN connections from the data center to AWS. Establish connectivity by configuring one VPN connection for each VPC. Option B. Launch a third-party virtual network appliance in each VPC. Establish an IPsec VPN tunnel between the data center and each virtual appliance. Option C. Set up 3 AWS Direct Connect connections from the data center to a Direct Connect gateway in US East 1. Establish connectivity by configuring each VPC to use one of the Direct Connect connections. And option D. Set up one AWS Direct Connect connection from the data center to AWS. Create a transit gateway and attach each VPC to the transit gateway. Establish connectivity between the Direct Connect connection and the transit gateway. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, an e-commerce company is building a distributed application that involves several serverless functions and AWS services to complete order processing tasks. These tasks require manual approvals as part of the workflow. A solutions architect needs to design an architecture for the order processing application. The solution must be able to combine multiple AWS Lambda functions into responsive serverless applications. The solution also must orchestrate data and services that run on Amazon EC2 instances, containers, or on-premises servers. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Option A. Use AWS step function to build the application. Option B. Integrate all the application components in an AWS glue job. Option C. Use Amazon Simple Queue service to build the application. And option D. Use AWS Lambda functions and Amazon Event Bridge events to build the application. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, a company has launched an Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance. Most of the connections to the database come from serverless applications. Application traffic to the database changes significantly at random intervals. At times of high demand, users report that their applications experience database connection rejection errors. Which solution will resolve this issue with the least operational overhead? Option A. Create a proxy in RDS proxy. Configure the user's applications to use the DB instance through RDS proxy. Option B. Deploy Amazon Elastic Cache for meme cache between the user's applications and the DB instance. Option C. Migrate the DB instance to a different instance class that has higher I/O capacity. Configure the user's applications to use the new DB instance. And option D. Configure multi-AChat for the DB instance. Configure the user's applications to switch between the DB instances. And the correct answer is option A. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is: A company deployed A company recently deployed a new auditing system to centralize information about operating system versions, patching and install software for Amazon EC2 instances. A solutions architect must ensure all instances provisioned through EC2 auto-scaling groups successfully send reports to the auditing system as soon as they are launched and terminated. Which solution achieves these goals most efficiently? Option A. Use a scheduled AWS Lambda function and run a script remotely on all EC2 instances to send data to the audit system. Option B. Use EC2 auto-scaling lifecycle hooks to run a custom script to send data to the audit system when instances are launched and terminated. Option C. Use an EC2 auto-scaling launch configuration to run a custom script through user data to send data to the audit system when instances are launched and terminated. And option D. Run a custom script on the instance operating system to send data to the audit system. Configure the script to be invoked by the EC2 auto-scaling group when the instance starts and is terminated. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is: A company is developing a real-time multiplayer game that uses UDP for communications between the client and servers in an auto-scaling group. Spikes in demand are anticipated during the day, so the game server platform must adapt accordingly. Developers want to store gamer scores and other non-relational data in a database solution that will scale without intervention. Which solution should a solutions architect recommend? Option A. Use Amazon Route 53 for traffic distribution and Amazon Aurora Serverless for data storage. Option B. Use a network load balancer for traffic distribution and Amazon DynamoDB on demand for data storage. Option C. Use a network load balancer for traffic distribution and Amazon Aurora Global Database for data storage. And option D. Use an application load balancer for traffic distribution and Amazon DynamoDB Global Tables for data storage. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is: A company hosts a front-end application that uses an Amazon API gateway API backend that is integrated with AWS Lambda. When the API receives requests, the Lambda function loads many libraries. Then the Lambda function connects to an Amazon RDS database, processes the data, and returns the data to the front-end application. The company wants to ensure that response latency is as low as possible for all its users with the fewest number of changes to the company's operations. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Establish a connection between the front-end application and the database to make queries faster by bypassing the API. Configure provision concurrency for the Lambda function that handles the request. Option C. Cache the results of the queries in Amazon S3 for faster retrieval of similar datasets. And option D, increase the size of the database to increase the number of connections lambda can establish at one time. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company is migrating its on-premises workload to the AWS cloud. The company already uses several Amazon EC2 instances and Amazon RDS DB instances. The company wants a solution that automatically starts and stops the EC2 instances and DB instances outside of business hours. The solution must minimize cost and infrastructure maintenance. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A, scale the EC2 instances by using elastic resize. Scale the DB instances to zero outside of business hours. Option B, explore AWS Marketplace for partner solutions that will automatically start and stop the EC2 instances and DB instances on a schedule. Option C, launch another EC2 instance, configure a cron tab schedule to run shell scripts that will start and stop the existing EC2 instances and DB instances on a schedule. And option D, create an AWS Lambda function that will start and stop the EC2 instances and DB instances. Configure Amazon Event Bridge to invoke the Lambda function on a schedule. And the correct answer is option D. Next question is, a company hosts a SAA web application that includes a PostgreSQL database. The database stores the metadata from documents. The company searches and metadata for key terms to retrieve documents that the company reviews in a report each month. The documents are stored in Amazon S3. The documents are usually written only once, but they are updated frequently. The reporting process takes a few hours with the use of relational queries. The reporting process must not prevent any document modifications or the addition of new documents. A solutions architect needs to implement a solution to speed up the reporting process. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least amount of change to the application code? Option A, set up a new Amazon Document DB cluster that includes a read replica. Scale the read replica to generate the reports. Option B, set up a new Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL DB cluster that includes an Aurora replica. Issue queries to the Aurora replica to generate the reports. Option C, set up new Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL multi-AZ DB instance. Configure the reporting module to query the secondary RDS node so that the reporting module does not affect the primary node. And option D, set up a new Amazon DynamoDB table to store the documents. Use a fixed write capacity to support new document entries automatically. Scale the read capacity to support the reports. And the correct answer is option B. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company is planning to migrate a commercial off-the-shelf application from its on-premises data center to AWS. The software has a software licensing model using sockets and cores with predictable capacity and uptime requirements. The company wants to use its existing licenses which were purchased earlier this year. Which Amazon EC2 pricing option is the most cost-effective? Option A, dedicated reserve hosts. Option B, dedicated on-demand hosts. Option C, dedicated reserve instances. And option D, dedicated on-demand instances. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, a company runs an application on Amazon EC2 Linux instances across multiple availability zones. The application needs a storage layer that is highly available and portable, operating system interface compliant. The storage layer must provide maximum data durability and must be shareable across the EC2 instances. The data in the storage layer will be accessed frequently for the first 30 days and will be accessed infrequently after that time. Which solution will meet these requirements most cost effectively? Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a solutions architect is creating a new VPC design. There are two public subnets for the load balancer, two private subnets for web servers, and two private subnets for MySQL. The web servers use only HTTPS. The solutions architect has already created a security group for the local balancer, allowing port 443 from 0000/0. Company policy requires that each resource has the least access required to still be able to perform its task. Which additional configuration strategy should the solutions architect use to meet these requirements? Option A. Create a security group for the web servers and allow port 443 from 0000/0. Create a security group for the MySQL servers and allow port 3306 from the web server security group. Options B. Create a network ACL for the web servers and allow port 443 from 0000/0. Create a network ACL for the MySQL servers and allow port 3306 from the web server security group. Option C. Create a security group for the web servers and allow port 443 from the load balancer. Create a security group for the MySQL servers and allow 3306 from the web server security group. And option D. Create a network ACL for the web servers and allow port 443 from the load balancer. Create a network ACL for the MySQL servers and allow port 3306 from the web server security group. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, an e-commerce company is running a multi-tier application on AWS. The front end and back end tiers both run on Amazon EC2 and the database runs on Amazon RDS for MySQL. The backend tier communicates with the RDS instance. There are frequent calls to return identical datasets from the database that are causing performance slowdowns. Which actions should be taken to improve the performance of the backend? Option A. Implement Amazon SNS to store the database calls. Option B. Implement Amazon Elasticache to catch the large datasets. Option C. Implement an RDS for MySQL read replica to catch database calls. And option D. Implement Amazon Nessus Data Firehose to stream the calls to the database. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a new employee has joined a company as a development engineer. The deployment engineer will be using AWS CloudFormation templates to create multiple AWS resources. A solution architect wants the deployment engineer to perform job activities while following the principle of least privilege. Which combination of actions should the solutions architect take to accomplish this goal? Choose 2. Option A. Have the deployment engineer use AWS account root user credentials for performing AWS CloudFormation stack operations. Option B. Create a new IAM user for the deployment engineer and add the IAM user to a group that has the power users IAM policy attached. Option C. Create a new IAM user for the deployment engineer and add the IAM user to a group that has the administrator access IAM policy attached. Option D. Create a new IAM user for the deployment engineer and add the IAM user to a group that has an IAM policy that allows AWS CloudFormation actions only. And option E. Create an IAM rule for the deployment engineer to explicitly define the permissions specific to the AWS CloudFormation stack and launch stacks using that IAM rule. And the correct answer is option B and E. Next question is, a company is deploying a two-tier web application in a VPC. The web tier is using an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group with public subnets that span multiple availability zones. The database there consists of an Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance in separate private subnets. The web tier requires access to the database to retrieve product information. The web application is not working as intended. The web application reports that it cannot connect to the database. The database is confirmed to be up and running. All configurations for the network ACL security group and root tables are still in their default state. What should a solutions architect recommend to fix the application? Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option D. Thank you. Back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company hosts a three-tier e-commerce application on a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances. The instances run in an auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer. All e-commerce data is stored in an Amazon RDS for MariaDB multi-AZ DB instance. The company wants to optimize customer session management during transactions. The application must store session data durably. Which solution will meet these requirements? Choose 2. Option A. Run on the sticky sessions feature on the ALB. Option B. Use an Amazon DynamoDB table to store customer sessions information. Option C. Deploy an Amazon Cognito user pool to manage user session information. Option D. Deploy an Amazon Elastic Cache for Redis cluster to store customer session information. And option E. Use AWS Systems Manager Application Manager in the application to manage user session information. And the correct answer is option A and D. Next question is, a company needs a backup strategy for its three-tier stateless web application. The web application runs on Amazon EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group with the dynamic scaling policy that is configured to respond to scaling events. The database tier runs on Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL. The web application does not require temporary local storage on the EC2 instances. The company's recovery point objective is 2 hours. The backup strategy must maximize scalability and optimize resource utilization for this environment. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Take snapshots of Amazon Elastic Block Store volumes of the EC2 instances and database every 2 hours to meet the RPO. Option B. Configure a snapshot lifecycle policy to take Amazon Elastic Block Store. Snapshots enable automated backups in Amazon RDS to meet the RPO. Option C. Retain the latest Amazon machine images of the web and application tiles. Enable automated backups in Amazon RDS and use point-in-time recovery to meet the RPO. And option D. Take snapshots of Amazon Elastic Block Store volumes of the EC2 instances every 2 hours. Enable automated backups in Amazon RDS and use point-in-time recovery to meet the RPO. And the correct answer is option B. Next question is, a company wants to deploy a new public web application on AWS. The application includes a web server tier that uses Amazon EC2 instances. The application also includes a database tier that uses an Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance. The application must be secure and accessible for global customers that have dynamic IP addresses. How should a solutions architect configure the security groups to meet these requirements? Please go through the options. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, a payment processing company records all voice communication with its customers and stores the audio files in an Amazon S3 bucket. The company needs to capture the text from the audio files. The company must remove from the text any personally identifiable information that belongs to customers. What should a solutions architect do to meet these requirements? Option A. Process the audio files by using Amazon Nessus video streams. Use an AWS Lambda function to scan for known PII patterns. Option B. When an audio file is uploaded to the S3 bucket, invoke an AWS Lambda function to start an Amazon text track task to analyze the call recordings. Option C. Configure an Amazon transcribe transcription job with PII redaction turned on. When an audio file is uploaded to the S3 bucket, invoke an AWS Lambda function to start the transcription job. Store the output in a separate S3 bucket. And option D. Create an Amazon contact flow that ingests the audio files with transcription turned on. Embed an AWS Lambda function to scan for known PII patterns. Use Amazon Event Bridge to start the contact flow when an audio file is uploaded to the S3 bucket. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company is running a multi-tier e-commerce web application in the AWS cloud. The application runs on Amazon EC2 instances with an Amazon RDS for MySQL multi-ASA DB instance. Amazon RDS is configured with the latest generation DB instance with 2000 GB of storage in a general purpose SSD, Amazon Elastic Block Store volume. The database performance affects the application during periods of high demand. A database administrator analyzes the logs in Amazon CloudWatch logs and discovers that the application performance always degrades when the number of read and write IOPS is higher than 20,000. What should a solutions architect do to improve the application performance? Option A. Replace the volume with a magnetic volume. Option B. Increase the number of IOPS on the GP3 volume. Option C. Option C. Replace the volume with a provisioned IOPS SSD volume. And option D. Replace the 2000 GB GP3 volume with two 1000 GB GP3 volumes. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, an IAM user made several configuration changes to AWS resources in their company's account during a production deployment last week. A solutions architect learned that a couple of security group rules are not configured as desired. The solutions architect wants to confirm which IAM user was responsible for making changes. Which service should the solutions architect use to find the desired information? Option A. Amazon Guard Duty. Option B. Amazon Inspector. Option C. AWS Cloud Trail. And option D. AWS Config. And the correct answer is option C. Thank you. Back to our channel. Today we are covering AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. Our team is working hard to keep the content up to date. If you find this video helpful, please let us know in the comment. We really appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel. Today's question is, a company has implemented a self-managed DNS service on AWS. A company has implemented a self-managed DNS service on AWS. The solution consists of the following: Amazon EC2 instances in different AWS regions, endpoints of a standard accelerator in AWS Global Accelerator. The company wants to protect the solution against DDoS attacks. What should a solutions architect do to meet this requirement? Option A. Subscribes to AWS Shield Advanced at the accelerator as a resource to protect. Option B. Subscribe to AWS Shield Advanced at the EC2 instances as resources to protect. Option C. Create an AWS WAF Web ACL that includes a rate-based rule. Associate the Web ACL with the accelerator. And option D. Create an AWS WAF Web ACL that includes a rate-based rule. Associate the Web ACL with the EC2 instances. And the correct answer is option A. Next question is, an e-commerce company needs to run a scheduled daily job to aggregate and filter sales records for analytics. The company stores the sales records in an Amazon S3 bucket. Each object can be up to 10 GB in size based on the number of sales events. The job can take up to an hour to complete. The CPU and memory usage of the job are constant and are known in advance. A solutions architect needs to minimize the amount of operational effort that is needed for the job to run. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Create an AWS Lambda function that has an Amazon Event Bridge notification. Schedule the Event Bridge event to run once a day. Option B. Create an AWS Lambda function. Create an Amazon API Gateway HTTP API and integrate the API with the function. Create an Amazon Event Bridge scheduled event that calls the API and invokes the function. Option C. Create an Amazon Elastic Container Service cluster with an AWS Fargate launch type. Create an Amazon Event Bridge scheduled event that launches an ECS task on the cluster to run the job. And option D. Create an Amazon Elastic Container Service cluster with an Amazon EC2 launch type and an auto-scaling group with at least one EC2 instance. Create an Amazon Event Bridge scheduled event that launches an ECS task on the cluster to run the job. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a company needs to transfer 600 TB of data from its on-premises network attached storage system to the AWS cloud. The data transfer must be complete within 2 weeks. The data is sensitive and must be encrypted in transit. The company's internet connection can support an upload speed of 100 MB per second. Which solution meet these requirements most cost effectively? Option A. Use Amazon S3 multi-part upload functionality to transfer the files over HTTPS. Option B. Create a VPN connection between the on-premises NAS system and the nearest AWS region. Transfer the data over the VPN connection. Option C. Use the AWS Snow Family console to order several AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized devices. Use the devices to transfer the data to Amazon S3. And option D. Set up a 10 GB per second AWS Direct Connect connection between the company location and the nearest AWS region. Transfer the data over a VPN connection into the region to store the data in Amazon S3. And the correct answer is option C. Next question is, a financial company hosts a web application on AWS. The application uses an Amazon API gateway regional API endpoint to give users the ability to retrieve current stock prices. The company's security team has noticed an increase in the number of API requests. The security team is concerned that HTTP flood attacks might take the application offline. A solutions architect must design a solution to protect the application from this type of attack. Which solution meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Option A. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the API gateway regional API endpoint with a maximum TTL of 24 hours. Option B. Create a regional AWS WAF web ACL with a rate-based rule. Associate the web ACL with the API gateway stage. Option C. Use Amazon CloudWatch metrics to monitor the count metric and alert the security team when the predefined rate is reached. And option D. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution with Lambda @edge in front of the API gateway regional API endpoint. Create an AWS Lambda function to block requests from IP addresses that exceed the predefined rate. And the correct answer is option B. Thank you.